So g'day, I want to talk about what can we do in response to the effects of climate change on agriculture. So many farmers here in Africa, around the world, are small farmers, tiny plots of land, and they get one here in Northern Africa, maybe in other parts of the world they get a couple of seasons where they grow their crops. Up here where they get one shot, there's one rainy season, and if the rains fail, they've got a big problem. Even if the rains don't fail, but the rains come at the wrong time for where the crops are growing, or they have small periods of mini droughts during the season, or the rains come very intensely and wash away all of their crops and their soils. They've got big problems. So what can we do in response to that? Well, one of the things we can do is to look at growing what's called climate smart or future fit crops. And these are crops that don't mind growing in tough conditions, where it's dry, where it's hot and dry, and even in degraded soils. And that's a hugely important matter in a lot of the world because we've got so many degraded soils. So many of our soils have become degraded through intensive agricultural practices. And one of the crops that fit this definition of a climate smart, future fit crop is what's called the Bambara groundnut. The Bambara groundnut is native to West Africa. It grows up in the dry savanna and Sahel regions, not in the tropical regions, and that's because it doesn't really like too much water. And standing in a field of Bambara here, in fact it's a research trial where we're working to understand how we can help the Bambara to grow better. It likes degraded soils, it's a legume, so it puts nitrogen back into the soils, it helps revitalise degraded soils, and it gets a good yield of really high nutrient dense food for farmers that grow it. Our partner What If Foods has commercialised the crop, and they've made it into plant-based milks and noodles. And so right here across northern Ghana, we're working with around 6,000 farmers in our second year to grow this amazing future fit crop, the Bambara groundnut. And so part of that work is to study what we can do to help it grow better. And we've come today to this research field, our research field, where we've got 54 plots arranged here to look at the best ways to grow the Bambara. And we are very fortunate to have our researcher with us, and that is Anissa. And Anissa is here. G'day Anissa, how are you?
Hello.
Good. How's the work?
It's good.
It's hot?
It's hot.
So we're out here in the field. There's not a lot of trees and shade out here, but Anissa, tell us what you're doing. What's your work here?
So what we're trying to do is find out what the best growing conditions for Bambara are, which is avoiding using pesticides, weedicides, a lot of fertilizers, etc., that actually in the long term degrade the soil. So this trial is set up to investigate biostimulants and biochar and mixes between. And what I'm busy measuring right now is chlorophyll, so we're looking at the nitrogen content. But the idea of this entire field trial is in what we learn here, we can actually spread that information out to the partner farmers so that they can optimize their yields without actually degrading their soil and their long-term prospects.
Right, and so because we're doing it here, we sort of take away some of the risk for the farmers, because if we ask them to trial something that doesn't work, that's not good news for them, right?
Exactly.
So we're learning it here, and you're doing it as part of your Masters, is that right?
Yes, so I'm here from University of Porto, and just kind of learning a lot as I come here with about Bambara, but then also trying to kind of bring in some of the specific techniques so that we really learn as much as possible and gather really rich data.
Okay, so you've got this flash meter, you're measuring chlorophyll. At the end of the season, what's it going to tell us? How are we going to know what's worked and what hasn't worked?
Well, we've got a lot of measurements throughout the period. So we're measuring height, we're measuring, flowering, sort of the dates of flowering, because flowering is really important for Bambara podding.
Podding, what's that?
Podding. So when, the Bambara has different stages of growth. So obviously you've got germination, then you've got flowering, and then after flowering you get pegging.
Pegging?
Yes. So pegging then is followed by podding. So it's the little kind of, little roots going into the soil, and then the pods are made underneath the soil. And that's really important because the pods are your Bambara.
That's where the Bambara nuts are, right, in the pods?
Exactly. So at the end of the entire process, the really big measurement that I'm quite excited about is yield. So from every single one of these 54 plots, we will measure, we'll weigh the actual kilos of the pods coming out, and we'll see if there's a difference. Some pods might be bigger, some pods might be smaller, we might get more pods per plant. That's what we'll find out. That's one of the big measurements, and then these in between measurements we're taking should help explain why and maybe what's happening across the process. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Anissa, we don't want to hold you up, but it is a bit hot and sunny out here. But you've got, I think you've done about 5 or 6. You've got another 50 or so to go. So yes. Good luck with that, and thanks for your work here. I mean, it's absolutely valuable to help us understand so that we can work with our partner farmers how they can increase their yields. And these farmers are pretty poor people. So if we can increase their yields, we can increase their income, we get more beans, we regenerate the soil more, and it really is this combination of research and commercial business practice to try and get more Bambara, more life into the soils, and improve the livelihood of the communities. So thanks for your work, Anissa.
Thank you.
Good on you. All right. Thanks so much.